Hey guys, this is Ariel Baruch in Syracuse TV studio, and we going live from our studio. And today we have an amazing guest speaker, Steve Belcher. I would like to introduce Steve, and then we'll go into discussion about kidney function. I want to remind our viewers right now, so we're gonna have several presentations on kidneys. Today we're gonna talk about kidney function. In the next episode, we're gonna bring another amazing guest, Tracy Amati, who is a kidney patient and a kidney health advocate. So we're gonna have two speakers in the next session, and we're gonna in next episode we're gonna talk about the kidney failure and the treatment options, and we're gonna have additional session after that. We'll focus on diet for how to keep kidneys healthy, and we'll also focus on the diet that specifically catered towards people who do have a kidney disease, chronic kidney disease, or end-stage renal disease. And then we'll have additional session with Tracy Amati, and we'll be talking on psychological effect of kidney disease and how that affects patients, and she will be sharing her perspective, her story, how she went through, because she went through many years of kidney disease, kidney dialysis, kidney transplant, and other issues, and will be amazing to have her on the show again. So, but today I want to present Steve Belcher. He's a registered nurse. He has two master's degrees. He obtained his Bachelor of Science in Nursing in 2003. And in the following years, he obtained master's in nursing and also master's degree in health education. He is currently executive director of Urban Kidney Alliance, which is a grassroots non-profit organization spreading the word about kidney health and advocating issues around promoting healthy lifestyle and healthy kidneys. He served for 33 years. He worked for 33 years in first he started as a clinician in dialysis field, and then he was a registered nurse. He became a registered nurse, and then he ended up being a charge nurse, where he was directing the staff of nurses. He worked for different organizations. And Steve wrote a book recently. He published it published end of last year. It's called How to Survive Outpatient Hemodialysis, a guide for patients with kidney failure. Amazing book. This book is available in print you can get it from, for example, from Amazon. You can also order a paper copy. It's also available in audio version if you have access to Amazon Alexa. If you can just open Amazon Alexa and find that book through Amazon Alexa app, you can also listen to the book. So Amazon Alexa will essentially convert text into audio so people can listen to it. So Steve, welcome. We happy to have you. Thank you for volunteering to be with us. Today's session.
Thank you, Ariel, for inviting
Today's
me.
session is mostly, we would like to focus on kidney functions, so we can kind of delve into it and what kidney does in the body, and how it's supposed to function, what are the functions, and what happens when it doesn't function well. And we'll take questions from the audience, and Steve, take it away.
Sure. How do you want to start this off, Ariel?
So let's give a brief description about kidney, how it works, the physiology of kidney, and what is the normal physiology, and what is abnormal physiology, and what are the consequences of when things don't go well, when kidney doesn't function properly.
Sure. Thanks, Ariel. So, in order to understand kidney disease and the treatment of kidney disease, we got to first understand how the normal kidney works. Now, as you know, we each have two kidneys, on one on each side of the back, which is right below the rib cage on each side of the back. And they weigh about 4 to 6 ounces, bean shaped, and they're responsible for keeping a delicate balance of the chemicals in one's body. Without them, the other organs could not function properly. Now, you mentioned the function of the kidneys. Uh, they do many things, but the five major functions that the kidneys perform. They remove waste from the blood, they remove excess water from the body, they regulate blood pressure, they control red blood cell production, and it produces vitamin D. Now, when the kidneys stop working, then those major functions stop happening. And as a result of that, you have chronic kidney disease. Now, kidney disease come in 5 stages. Now, when the kidneys start, it's a slow process. So you can have kidney disease, but not have kidney failure. Okay. So that's important to know that there's 5 stages and you have an opportunity to address each stage. But once it gets to stage 5 at a certain number, which is about, some people, it varies, but I say about 10%, actually it's 5%, but some people start feeling symptoms at 10%. Everybody's different, but normally at 5%, when you have 5% kidney function, that's when they initiate dialysis. Whether it's normally it's hemodialysis, but you have 2 forms of dialysis. You got peritoneal dialysis, and then you got hemodialysis.
I see. What's surprising when I was looking into this recently, what was surprising to me is how much blood is filtered through the kidney. Because at any given time, correct me if I'm wrong, about 20% of blood going through the kidney, the rest 80% of blood in the body go through cardiovascular system, other organs. And so there's a
Absolutely.
tremendous amount of volume of liquid that gets filtered through the kidney, and this filtration is actually termed ultrafiltration, because essentially what it does, it filters the very small molecule. It filters salts like you mentioned, potassium, sodium. It filters glucose. It filters extremely small molecules. Urea, for example, urea gets excreted eventually. So once blood gets filtered through, I believe it's called Bowman pocket, and then it goes into glomeruli pocket. So it gets filtered, goes into Henle lobe, and then gets reabsorbed by the blood vessels in the kidneys, and kind of, so body essentially gets back what it needs, and then the waste, like for example urea, gets excreted. If people
Exactly.
if people overtake vitamins, the that excess will be excreted. For example, if they take a lot more vitamin B than the body will essentially excrete the excess. So the way, it's a very delicate organ, that the way it functions is it was kind of surprising to me, because how much liquid go through these ultrafiltration. We're filtering extremely small pores. I believe it's something like we're talking about micron level. It's like a
No,
microfiltration.
absolutely. I mean, but this is constantly happening as we talking now. This process that you're talking about is going on inside our body at this moment. And once that process happened, what you was talking about, the reabsorption, some vitamins and urea are excreted, other proteins and minerals are reabsorbed, and what you have a result after all that is urine production. And that's, you know, why it's very, very important to watch your kidneys, because they're very delicate. They balance certain levels in your body. And once that balance is out of whack, then your whole system, other organs are impacted by the kidneys as well. So
and it's
go
termed
ahead.
the silent disease, because many times it kind of goes hand in hand with people who have extreme, high blood pressure. So because of the high blood pressure, there is so much pressure that kind of pushes on the kidney, that this essentially filtration nephrons, right? So kidney has 1 to 2, depending on the person, I guess.
Like a
Kidney has
million nephrons.
1 to 2 million nephrons, and then that extremely high pressure in people who do have problem with the high blood pressure essentially damages the function of the kidney to the point where, for example, it cannot filter anymore. It cannot hold the proteins in the blood, and that results in a proteinuria where people have protein excreted into urine, which the doctor can measure.
Well, Ariel, let me kind of expand on that because high blood pressure is the second leading cause of kidney failure. Now, diabetes is the number one cause of kidney failure. Okay, with high blood pressure, hypertension coming in second. So this just doesn't happen overnight. It's a slow process, meaning you can have high blood pressure for 20 years and then your kidneys start to fail if that high blood pressure isn't addressed, if it goes untreated. Same with diabetes. You can have diabetes if that's not addressed and you have it for multiple years. Diabetes lead to other complications. Kidney failure is just one of those complications, but it leads to neuropathy. It leads to damage in your eyes, damage to other organs. And so when you have too much sugar in your body over a long period of time, that sugar can damage blood vessels, and you have blood vessels that goes to all your major organs, and unfortunately the kidneys are one of the organs that gets hit the hardest because again, diabetes is the leading cause of kidney failure. So once you address the issues that causes kidney failure or kidney disease, I think a lot of people would be a lot better, especially with education. That's very critical that education and prevention is promoted because if you're walking around and don't know you have these diseases, then it can pop up when you least expect it. Now, there's a statistic that 9 out of 10 African Americans have stage 3 kidney disease and don't even know it. Now, if it's 5 stages and you're already at stage 3 and you don't know that, then you'll probably continue to do the your dietary measures, your lifestyle behaviors that got you at stage 3. If you continue to do that, you'll get to stage 5 sooner than later.
I see. So why is so you touched on the aspect that African Americans and also some other ethnic groups, for example, Latinos, Mexican Americans, Asians,
Yes, Pacific Asian
have
Pacific.
higher percentage of having this disease, and higher percentage of progressing it to the end stage renal disease, which requires dialysis, which was somewhat overwhelming for me. Just for me to study this, I realized how many things go into this. There is every patient has his own or her own team, consisting of a dietitian, consisting of nephrologist, consisting of assigned nurse, and some other people, psychologists, to help patient manage the end stage renal disease. It's
Let me ask you,
mind
where did
blowing.
you must have been looking over in the UK at that information because nowhere in the United States at any clinic they're going to have a psychologist on staff. Now, over in the UK, United Kingdom, yes, they have psychologists at the unit, which I agree with that to help with the mental health aspect. A social worker can't do it alone, but not each patient has their own team. The same team, like if I was a patient at a facility here in the United States, the same team that goes over my information is going to be the same team that goes over the next patient information. And so what happens when you have all these facilities here in the United States, what it creates is a shortage of staff, and you have a lot of patients. So you may have a dietitian that may be responsible for a patient load of 100 patients. Now, to me, that's absolutely ridiculous to try to care for 100 patients at one facility by yourself, where you got to write different notes and be responsible for writing nutritional plans. Not everybody's going to have the same nutritional plan, so, or may, have the same nutritional intake. So it's almost getting to the point where, and I hate to say this, that everybody gets labeled into one box to make it much faster and easier.
So do you feel like it's less efficient, or it's not efficient at all to have so many people assigned to one dietitian or one nurse or one
No, it's
nephrologist?
efficient. It's efficient, but what's happening, you having so many people that's being diagnosed. Now, it's not just diabetes and hypertension; those are just the two leading causes. But you have lupus, you have your other chronic diseases that can cause kidney failure. Uh, you have your medications that can knock out your kidneys. So you got COVID that just happened. A lot of patients are on dialysis now as a result of COVID. So there's so many um, factors that's causing people to be on dialysis that is a almost like a burden, because you don't have the staff to help with that. If you go to any large corporation like Fresenius or DaVita on their website and look under the careers, you'll see a lot of position opening
Mm-hmm.
for dialysis technician, nurse, dietitian, these frontline workers, because there's so many patients with this disease that it's kind of hard to really keep a hold on it to really manage it the way it should be.
So you brought another point. You said 9 out of 10 people among African Americans have stage 3. So, like, again, so let's just reiterate. So there are 5 stages. Stage 1 is when for the most part kidney functions the way it's supposed to. Stage 2, its function decreases. Stage 3 is somewhere in the middle. Stage 4, it's almost failing, and stage 5 is called end stage renal disease, where people really have to go on dialysis, which requires a lot of changes in terms of lifestyle and everything. Essentially, people become, you can call them disabled people, because almost every other day they have to do dialysis, even if they do, even in some best situations. So why is it people progress so fast, and they like the healthcare system is not set up where we can detect this earlier? Like, what would you suggest to detect these issues with kidneys earlier, so people don't end up at stage 4 learning that, oh, by the way, I have a problem with the kidney? Like, how would you suggest address this?
Sure, by a simple blood and urine test. But let me say this, Ariel, you can have stage 1 kidney disease and not progress to stage 2, stage 3, stage 4. You can have stage 2 and not progress. It's when you catch it and how you address it. Now, will everyone who has diabetes or high blood pressure go on dialysis? No. No, it's not going to happen that way. But again, 80% of patients that are on dialysis from diabetes is from diabetes type 2, not type 1. And so diabetes type 2 is preventable. When you got two preventable diseases like hypertension and diabetes, when you manage that, it doesn't have to go any further. But getting back to your original question, what I suggest, one, if you're watching this and you fall in the risk category, African American, a minority that you mentioned, or if you have weight like obese, if you don't exercise, like lack of activity, and if you got diabetes or hypertension or heart disease or high cholesterol, first thing you want to do is go get a blood and urine test to get checked for kidney disease to see if any protein is spilling in your urine. Okay.
So
Now,
would you
high blood
recommend
pressure call. I'm sorry.
would you recommend a 24-hour urine test where they would check, they would collect
Well, no,
multiple
that's
samples?
that 24-hour urine test normally is for patients who are on dialysis that may be in the acute phase. Say they started dialysis and they still have kidney function. Because you can have kidney disease and go into acute kidney failure, acute renal failure, meaning your kidneys shut down temporarily. We do dialysis, give your kidneys a rest, and they work back again in a case like drug overdose or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, but um, the 24-hour urine is normally for patients who start on dialysis and the doctors want to see their kidney function, maybe thinking about taking them back off dialysis. So we take their urine and check it, have them carry the container every time they got a urinate in that container, put in a refrigerator, and when you take it back, what they do is see how much urine that you produce in 24 hours and see what the clearance is. And so they pour a little bit of that urine in a sample and send it off to the lab
Okay, so
along with blood tests.
mhm. So in urine, what do they normally look for? Do they look for albumin, protein? What specifically they would look for in urine
Yeah,
and
I
also in the blood?
mean, there's a lot that they're looking for, but mainly they're looking for red blood cells. They're looking for microalbumin, uh, protein. A lot of that leaks from the kidney when the kidneys are damaged. You have protein leakage. You have, they call it hematuria, or blood leakage, and again, albumina, which the albumin products flow in the urine as well. So that's what they're checking, and then they're also checking the blood to see what your GFR is, glomerular filtration rate, to see what the your BUN is, called blood urine nitrogen, and your creatinine levels to see where they are at as well.
I see. Okay, so yeah, I was surprised to learn. So my they said for adult male, I'm filtering about 100. I think in your book you said 200 quarts. It filtering 200 quarts. Is it per day or per hour? How does it work?
Yeah, per hour. When it's filtering. Yes.
Yeah, so it's we're talking about a large amount of liquid that gets filtered through this microfiltration through kidneys. Yeah. So
I just want to ask you a follow-up question, Steve.
so Steve, we have a producer. He wants to ask a question.
Do you think they are giving enough attention to kidney disease since it's affect predominantly minorities?
No, no, they're not. And that's why I do what I do far as advocacy, because there's not enough attention brought to kidney disease. And the only time really is brought is when you have like a great transplant story, where a stranger may come out of nowhere and donate, or uh, maybe a celebrity like Stevie Wonder, Selena Gomez, or Tina Turner uh, needed a kidney transplant and they got one. That's really the only time light is shedded on this disease. But other than that, this is the ninth leading cause of death in the United States. You got more people that die from kidney disease than you do breast cancer, and prostate cancer. Now, I'm not taking anything away from the cancers, but these diseases are promoted a lot more and advertised, and they're not even on the top 10 uh, uh, list as far as causes of death. And kidney disease is the ninth leading cause. And so I believe, me personally, that the awareness is not promoted on there because it's a moneymaker. Each time those machines run, the company is getting paid. So if one was to start dialysis, right, and they had an issue with the machine, say they had an issue with the arm and they started the treatment and the treatment only lasted 10 minutes and they patient had to come back the next day, it's no refund on that. Is you get charged for that treatment, even if it was only 10 minutes, you're getting charged as if you did a 3 or 4 hour treatment. Then you
And
come
Medicare
back.
is paying for it. And
Exactly.
so I believe most of those. So well, thanks
Well, we
to
call it we call it 80/20 in the business, meaning 80% of patients are on Medicare and 20% are on private pay. We call it 80/20.
yeah. So well, the good thing is the government helped pay the bill, but the other side of the story that you just pointed out is that it's essentially a business that people take and kind of use it as a business. And from my previous conversation with Tracy Amadi, who just actually made she just sent one comment that she did 24 tests before going on dialysis. She pointed out that
Mm-hmm.
it's almost like, and I think you also refer to that in your book. You said that when people get to dialysis center, it's almost like a manufacturing plant. It's kind of, they get in, they get set up, machines, those machines, those industrial level machines that people feel,
Absolutely.
difficulty readjusting after the dialysis. They still need to stay in the center for like 30 minutes just to come to their senses before they can even leave the senses. And it's kind of, my understanding is from what Tracy was explaining, is kind of rush to the point where
Exactly.
she felt personally that she was getting much better outcome by doing it at home, by using dialysis machine, hemodialysis machine at home.
Oh, absolutely. And that's where a lot of more people are being advised, if they can do it at home, then do that, because that's the better treatment, because you get a longer treatment. See, our kidneys work 24/7. Okay. Now, when they stop working, dialysis takes the place. Now, if you go to outpatient dialysis and you're doing, say, 3 hours 3 times a week, the basic, that's only 9 hours of treatment a week, 9 hours of cleaning your blood. If you're at home and you do, say, 3 days a week, but you do 7 hours, say you do it at night while you sleep, that's 21 hours of treatment opposed to 9 hours. So the person with 21 hours is going to feel a lot better because their blood is being cleaned a lot better than someone who goes 3 times a week for 3 hours inside the clinic. And you're right, it's like a rush uh, mentality, because if you have a unit, just think there's units out there that are 50 chairs, 30 chairs. And if you got 3 shifts of patients and you got 30 patients coming off at different times, and then you got another set of patients coming in, um, you got people kind of rushing around wanting to set up, because you got patients who may come in and waiting for their chair. The chair may not be clean, and they may be standing around watching you and putting that pressure on you. And when I say putting the pressure, not actually telling you hurry up, but just sitting there staring at you, watching, and kind of projecting the image that you're slow or they're ready to get on the machine. So it's a lot of factors in this area when it comes to going into the clinic outpatient, and you got to deal with machines that may break down periodically, and they may not have a backup machine, and they may have you come back another day where you may have something to do on that day, and now you got to readjust your plans to work around the clinic's plan. So I advise, if anyone watching this that's on outpatient and they have a caregiver or someone that can help them at home do home hemo, yes, that is, in my opinion, the best treatment, because you can do it anytime you want to do it. You're not mandated to the clinic schedule. If you got inclement weather, you don't have to leave your house to go out in this weather to get to the unit. You may not have all the staff show up. If you do have inclement weather, which cause you to have a shortage of staff, now they're going to be rushing. You're not going to get the quality treatment that you deserve, because now it's rushed. It's not where you have one person to take care of three people. Now, depending on what state you're at, the regulations are different. Here in Washington, D.C. and Maryland, the patient staff ratio is one technician or nurse per three patients. Now, you can go somewhere like in Georgia or North Carolina where you may have one staff per 5 or 6 patients. So you go from Maryland and DC, you're only taking care of three patients. Now, if you go to North Carolina and decide to work, you may have 5 or 6 patients that you're caring for. And that makes it a lot more difficult, because now you got to put on 6 patients, you got to take them off, and each one of those patients, while you're taking care of them, could uh, develop a problem during dialysis, cramping, hypotension, nausea, vomiting, cardiac arrest. The
Wow.
needles could come out. I mean, you got a host of issues that can happen on dialysis that a lot of people don't think about. But when it happens, that's when everything kind of hits the fan, because that's when you find out that there's not enough staff there to prevent this type of stuff. So
Yeah,
it's I
Tracy.
find it critical to do it at home.
Yeah, Tracy just made a lot of comments on her recommendation. She strongly advises to do it at home if possible. Obviously, there are arrangements to be made. You know, you would need to have a nurse available to come out to home and do it. But this brings us to another couple of questions. One thing you just mentioned out, there is a possibility of needle coming out. So I'm not sure how well it works at home if you do it overnight, because there's always the chance that the needle can come out. Is that fair assessment?
That's true. That's absolutely true. But the difference is, when you're at home, you have your caregiver, and that's 101 personal care. When you're in the clinic, you got 2, 3 other patients that staff is watching after. So let's take, for instance, you in the clinic, and the person that's caring for you is on break, eating their lunch. Okay. Now, the person that is supposed to be watching you for them has their own patients. Okay. Now you're talking about they can't watching over 8. If they're, say that each of them has 4 patients. Now one person's watching over 8 patients. Now, if a person is in their chair asleep, or they turn the wrong way, or say the line may be in between the chair, and it may get snagged when they turn it over, that can pour the needle out if that line get caught on something in the dialysis chair. Now, say that happens, and the person is dealing with another patient or somewhere in the back, and no one's in the section watching the patients, which happens a lot. Now, if that happens, there's nobody in that section to intervene with that blood loss. Okay, and I've seen this happen many times. That's why I'm able to talk about it. But when you're at home, that is highly unlikely to happen because one, you may be in a lazy boy, not in a regular dialysis chair, and then you may tape your lines in a way to where that won't happen. When you're at the dialysis unit, you don't have that luxury because the technician is putting in the needles, they're taping you down, and so unless you say, uh, "Take my lines this way" or "Do this," then you're at the liberty of the dialysis tech. But if you don't say nothing, then they're going to do what they normally do, or what they feel is the best at that time.
So another question I have. So since we kind of switched to the topic of doing dialysis at home, in terms of availability of these machines, how available are they? I know Tracy Amati on a last session when we show that we did for kidney, she said she's using Tableau, and but I'm just, I'm not familiar with that market. How available are these machines if somebody really needs it?
So right now they are using Tableau as out. You got two machines out on the market, Next Stage and Tableau. Tableau recently, last March, not this March that just passed, but last year when COVID hit, got approved, FDA approved, kind of like fast track because they were running out of dialysis machines because you had so many people getting kidney failure from COVID. And so that's where Tableau kind of came in, but they were already in the making and had studies and I can't think of what you call it, but they had machines out there kind of doing preliminaries and seeing the efficiency of the machine. And then COVID hit, and then they got approved. Now, because of that, they're trying to make waves in the market. There's not a lot of places out there on the East Coast. I know in California, you got clinics that are really using the Tableau, and they're kind of starting to really make an emergence across the United States. But Next Stage has been out for a long period of time, and a lot of people are used to that. They both do the same thing. Okay, it's just which one performs better, and that depends on the operator. Depends on how many steps you got to uh, take to set up the Next Stage opposed to Tableau, or how much liquid the Next Stage use opposed to Tableau. What about your supplies? Do you have more supplies with the Next Stage than you do with Tableau? So one will have to first, wherever they live, to see if the clinic uses Tableau. Okay, because the clinic has to train with them in order for that person to use it, or find a home dialysis company that has partnered with Tableau or used the Tableau machine so they can train you. But I mean, again, both machines do pretty much the same thing. Each may have different steps. One may be longer than the other. Uh, just different ways that they operate. But at the end of the day, they do what they designed to do: pull off waste and pull off fluid.
So, which one is more cost effective? Doing the dialysis at the clinic or at your home?
Honestly, I really can't answer that with a hard answer, but in my opinion, I feel like at home would be more cost effective because that way one doesn't have to worry about transportation and leaving their house. So you got the transportation cost. Okay. Now, again, when you get to the unit, let's say if you arrive, say if your treatment time is 3 o'clock and you're trying to get there and there's traffic, or something happens, you get there at 3:15 or 3:30. They're going to cut your time. Say if you're 3 hours and you're supposed to be there at 3 o'clock, it ain't no making up that time. You get there 3:30, 3:45. That's what time you're going to come off with the last patient. Okay, if that patient comes off in another hour and a half, that's when you're going to come off. So there's a lot to it that a lot of patients don't understand. Even with holidays, when you go into the clinic, some holidays they cut your treatment. If you run 4 hours, if the doctor says your treatment is 4 hours 3 times a week, and on 4th of July, they run everybody 3 hours so the staff can get out of there to celebrate 4th of July. I mean, come on. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. So we got a number of comments. One of them was from Tracy Amadi. She said Tableau has 10 steps versus the other unit 40 steps. And then Jason Trainer saying that he said he got transplanted, but if he had to do home dialysis, his preference would be Tableau. I assume I assume probably because of less number of steps. Yeah, so it's a less I guess psychologically, when people go through this dialysis, part of the reasons why they're doing it is because it's to improve health. So people may not feel well. There are people may have good days, not so good days. So the less steps you ask them to do, psychological people will just opt for something that require less steps.
What will happen though if you don't do dialysis at all? Let's say you have
everybody's different, but at some point the toxins would build up and you would die because of the potassium. And that potassium buildup will cause stress on the heart, will cause your heart to go into cardiac arrest.
Okay.
Yeah, and just in general, all the waste that's supposed to be excreted, if body starts accumulating the waste, it's essentially the body will be intoxicated with the waste that normally would get excreted with the urine.
Yeah, but it's not the waste that is going to kill you, it's the potassium. Because because I've seen patients have a high buildup of waste, but and they're walking around functioning. Doctors say, I don't know how you still walking around. That's not, it's the potassium. That potassium, because it's an electrolyte, and the heart is you got electric going through their conduction. That potassium can throw that conduction off and cause you to go into arrhythmia, dysrhythmias, and cause a cardiac arrest. That's how mostly a lot of people pass from the cardiac arrest when it comes to, they call it hyperkalemia, which is high potassium.
Yeah, so essentially it's a imbalance of elements, and whatever's supposed to be in the blood, there is essentially imbalance, right? So like you said, potassium.
Absolutely.
So ratio of potassium to sodium or some other elements like calcium, magnesium, and other things that's supposed to be in the blood. So Steve, we really appreciate. Thank you for coming out on the show. We are at 45-minute mark right now. We really appreciate your help.
I actually just wanted to follow up on, what do you think is the type of foods that you can eat to improve your kidney?
Yeah, plant-based. Plant-based. That's what a lot of people are starting to get toward. A plant-based diet, food that has less protein, less saturated fat, less sodium, less phosphorus, less potassium, less sugar. I mean, again, all plant-based. Fruits, vegetables, possibly lean meat if you do eat any meat. Water, cut back on the sodas. I mean, it's pretty much, again, a plant-based diet. Not to say that one can't have food like fast food once in a while, but you don't want that to be your daily diet. You definitely want to include fruits, vegetables, water, exercise into your lifestyle. That's very important.
Yeah, and we're gonna have, so essentially our third session will be on actually food and nutrition,
Oh, okay, okay.
how to support healthy kidney function, and how to also adjust diet for patients who actually have end-stage renal disease. So Tracy actually was talking briefly about this at our previous show. She said she, for example, she would at her end-stage renal disease, she has to use some binders to bind phosphorus from the diet, so it doesn't
Sure.
create
Yeah, a lot of
complications.
patients take phosphorus binders, and they got it for potassium as well. If a person's going to miss dialysis, they got this liquid called KX-late, and what that does, it binds the potassium into the stools so it can be eliminated through the stools. Just like with the phosphorus binder, they prescribe phosphorus binders to dialysis patients so they can take it with the meals. And so you take these medication with meals, not before, not after, but with the meal, and then the phosphorus from that meal is binded and it's eliminated through the stools from the phosphorus binder.
My last question is just to reiterate. I know we alluded to it a little bit earlier. So you said 80% of patients will end up being covered by Medicare, and you said 20% of
80
patients
20.
20% of patients will be covered by private insurance. So I assume if, for example, if somebody worked for a company, the employer insurance may cover some of those costs, correct?
Oh, absolutely. It'll cover the cost of dialysis. And, and unfortunately, what happens, a lot of practices that happen that patients are not even aware of, that you can have two patients that start and say, and they have an opening chair. And if one and say Monday, Wednesday, Friday in the morning, they have an open chair, one chair, and there's two patients coming to the facility, they send the paperwork. If one got private insurance and the one got Medicare, you better bet they're going to take the one with private insurance over the Medicare because they can charge a lot more. With Medicare, you get a certain amount each month. With the private insurance, you can charge any amount you want. That's not going to mean you're going to get it, but you're going to get more than what the Medicare rate is.
Yeah, so because of pre-negotiated rates, which are actually kept private, they're not really disclosed, but typically those pre-negotiated rates almost always higher than what Medicare would pay, essentially higher than what the government would pay. So
Oh,
many,
absolutely.
so yeah, that's the kind of another downside of the healthcare reimbursement system that
And
we have in the United States.
right. And Ariel, can I just make one more point before you um, sign off? That a lot of people have to realize with these facilities, the large corporations, you have to remember they're traded on the New York Stock Exchange. Okay, so that means they have shares, they have shareholders, and DaVita and Fresenius, they are the two largest companies. In order to get the shareholders their money, they got to be running those machines. And they got to get patients on. That's why you see they don't really promote transplant. They don't really promote home dialysis because they want their revenue to come into that clinic. That's why you see clinics out in California making $5-10 million a month just in one clinic.
Wow, yeah, that's yeah. So, but Steve, we very happy to have you on this show, and thank you for discussing this important issues. Obviously, the equality. So, I mean, one of the thing you dedicated a small section in your book to the patient's rights and the patient's responsibilities. In some of the rights you described in your book is that patients have a right to know their treatment, they have a right to talk to the
Exactly.
nephrologist, and they have a right to the right treatment, they have a right to be treated fairly. So it's very important that we talk about this issue, and thank you bringing this to thank you for discussing this on the show, because those are very important. People need to realize dialysis and end-stage renal disease is debilitating disease, and it really, people feel vulnerable, especially when they, essentially in a position where they have to go to center to do dialysis just because, for example, maybe they're just starting and they don't even have an option to do it at home, right? So
Mm-hmm.
they may be just stuck with the situation where they have to be at the center for at least 1, 2, or 3 first months before they can end up having something at home. So we glad to have you. So again, our next session will be on the kidney failure and the kidney treatments. So we go more in details about those aspects of kidney. And Steve, I want to give you the last chance. Please advertise where people can read your book, and also how can they find other information that you promote on internet and online.
Sure. Thank you, Ariel. They can find my book, like you said in the beginning, at Amazon.com, Barnes and Nobles, or they can go to my personal site, StephenLBelcher.com. If you order from StephenLBelcher.com, I can give you a autographed copy because I'll see it. I can order the book and I'll sign it for you. Um, Other places one can get kidney disease information, they can go to our site, Urban Kidney Alliance, www.urbankidneyalliance.org on the website. You can also go to the American Association for Kidney Patients, AAKP, which is the oldest and largest independent patient organization in the United States. Those two places, you can definitely get some great information.
Yes, and also I want to I want to add one site I found interesting and useful. There's a National Institute of Diabetes, Digestive and Kidney Diseases. It's the, I
Oh
believe it's
yeah,
the,
that's right.
so it's the fifth largest in family of National Institute of Health, and they cover diabetes, digestive and kidney diseases, and there's a lot of information for people to just understand more in depth on what are they dealing with and how to improve their well-being, and how to, where to start. Essentially, they provide a lot of statistics, a lot of very helpful information.
Yeah, see, and that's the problem, Ariel. Some of them sites, which I didn't name because you have to look at some of the patients' literacy, health literacy, if they're able to understand a lot of the medical jargon that a lot of these sites put out pertaining to kidney disease. Now, the AAKP and smaller organizations, they have information that is, you can say, health literacy, which is understandable to read and to know. But a lot of these sites, when they throw out these statistics and these numbers, that kind of confuse people.
Yeah, I agree. So, Steve, again, thank you for coming on the show. So we're gonna schedule in advance the next show. Like I said, we're gonna focus on kidney disease and treatments in our next show. So we look forward to have you on the show, and also Tracy Amati, who is kidney health advocate, who is also currently a patient, kidney patient. So thank you again, and have a good evening.
I see your message, Tracy. I will. All right, thank you, Ari. I appreciate the opportunity to come on. Look forward to coming back and sharing some more information with Tracy. Absolutely.
Thank you.
You want to wrap up?
So, folks, we had a very good discussion with Steve Belcher. Steve has many years experience in the kidney dialysis, kidney treatment, dealing with patients, and all sorts of aspects of dealing with kidney disease. He is a great resource. He wrote recently a book. The book titled "How to Survive Outpatient Hemodialysis: A Guide for Patients with Kidney Failure." It's a good read. It's about 100 pages, and highly recommend for people who want to have a glimpse of what to expect if they have to, if they have a need to deal with the dialysis or be in an outpatient center to do dialysis. So thank you for being on this show. We happy to have you, and we look forward to our next session on kidney disease and kidney treatments. Thank you.